And with this pandemic and the economic scenario getting affected, you'll find global cooperation weakening. There won't be any consensus, and climate will be looming in, and it will create huge amount of challenges. If you have to enhance the resilience, government decision making. Now, this is a question which is whose government? What is government? So maybe a lot of reform will be required in the parliament and the way things are running, the way decision makings are maintained. I'm involved in many of the decision making. Decision making doesn't happen. The concept of decision making is not there. One person says yes, everyone says yes, and the meeting gets over. It is the sad tragedy of the highest level, because dissent is not, there is no samvad, there is no dialogue, and there is no critique. And sadly, this is impacting my way is the highway. You go to the policy makers also, my way is the highway. And this is creating public communication. There is no public communication. Public is the most powerful person, but where does the public comes into the picture? I tell university many of the time, you recruit teachers, but does the student sit on the interview panel? Because ultimately students want to study, and let them one representative or student sits. But again, it should not become mockery. Yeah? We have in a syllabus selection, students come, but they don't open their mouth, because maybe hierarchical structure functions in it, because our system works with a hierarchical structure. And a lot of work is done by JBP Sinha, a psychologist or social psychologist. He said that Indian culture is a soft culture where there is a wide hiatus between what we profess and what we practice, what is resolved and what is put into action, what is legislated and what is implemented. There are more rituals and symbolic actions than actual actions. हाँ, symbolic action है, rituals होता है, and that is why today government had to intervene in many places. Ki if any be okay, if it is good and it is as positive, will it be applied? Because rule says something else and implication happens something else. So there is a compliance officer. Compliance officer duty is to say that every rule has to be implemented, and many of the time which is there. And today only I was reading the news. The Delhi government and the central government, the Supreme Court had called them. Ki if you are saying that you are implementing, then why the weather is the pollution is not coming down? Something is wrong with it. And judiciary is feeling so helpless that why are you people coming here? I have no role to play. They are not listening to me. What can I do? Now this is a problem. Health system capabilities. Now this is another set of problems. How many doctors we produce, how many infrastructure we have, and it goes on huge from recruitment as it goes onwards. India, how many India produces doctor? More doctors are produces outside of India. Students go, they study, and there is a huge system capabilities. Can we enhance it? How much it has been done? Otherwise, we will not be able to manage things which is happening. Lockdown management, disaster management, how is it is there? Do we have a proper setup system? Financial assistance to the vulnerable. Okay, these factors are required in order to enhance the resilience of the community and the society. And if these factors, because this is linked, in case if it is not linked, then individual has to come on its own and do something. Yeah, you can't be a passive this thing. And this our society has shown it in this pandemic. I will come down to it. Now, when we speak about resilience, as I mentioned it about this, will show that it is community resilience. There will be high or low resilience. So we are in the low resilience. We do not have, because governance, society and economy, coastal management, land use and structural this thing, risk knowledge, warning evacuation, and the recovery factors. So all these factors play a very important part in governance. If you want to build up the resilient community, you have to have natural capital, social capital, economic capital, human capital, physical capital. Still, these models have not taken psychological capital. Though they cover it under the human capital, but psychological capital is there, because people may get frustrated, people may withdraw. So all these four factors are very, very essential if this resilient community has to be covered. And when we speak about resilient community, it is not one factor, it is a combination of all the factors which is there. Now, very important, do you have beside this a disaster resilience? This is very, very essential. And I think disaster management, resilience, a whole master's program is designed and are there, but you will have to strengthen more. You will have to create more centers and more this thing, because we are going to see in next 10 years more of this. And for this, you will have to also see the economic factors like poverty reduction, state building, building of the state institutions, disaster reductions, reduction of your disaster response. How is your response? The response time is very poor, and many of the time, and maybe it may be concentrated only in the urban India. What about the rural India? Conflict sensitivity and peace building, climate change and adaptation. So there are many type of disaster which can happen, and there are many. So you have to strengthen the policies and all those things. Interestingly, now I will give you some of the books, the latest books which are there. A lot of material you can get it, and good ones are coming out. So this is a good book of Sage 2021, recently Psychology of COVID-19, Building Resilience for Future Pandemics. This is going to be the order of the day. We are going to experience, especially low socioeconomic countries, and especially our country and the South Asian countries, we are going to experience more. Now, this book is divided into 8 chapters which are there. I will only go with the World Risk and the World Resilience Society. So, as I said, risk factors I have mentioned, and this small what you call crisis which led to chaos and confusion about this COVID virus 19, a tiny enemy that has put the world in the largest crisis for generation. Its size was only 0.00012 millimeter. The SARS-CoV-2 virus has created significant disruption around the globe. It has affected so many things, your health sector, your finance economy, and everything, which has uncertain science. That is another. Your science is also not able to get it. Uncertain politicians. Interesting, you read it. These politicians are also uncertain, created confusion. Many of the time, confusion and politics got mingled. So, cocktail of politics, religion have happened very well. Uncertain journalists, the person who gives the media information, person who gives was supposed to be honest. It's a breakdown of this uncertain journalist. All cocktail. Whether they give the news, which is a true news, also distorted facts coming in, many things, and many when religion gets mixed into it, blind faith started coming in. And psychologists are very pained with that, especially people who work at the community level, and generally who cannot have a critical thinking, they get victim to all these things. Uncertain interpretation. Okay, again, religion, all cocktail. Mental health, uncertain minds, definitely yes. Mental health became a severe problem, and there's no policy. Nothing is there in this country. We are struggling for a licensing system, because here again, people, what you call charlatans have come in. Everyone is calling himself as a mental health expert or a psychologist. Exist in uncertain life. Life you don't know. Yesterday I talked with somebody and today is no more. A young guy of 30, 32. Age is not matter. Here people are losing. And resilience society. Now this is very important, is World Resilience Society. From World Risk Society, we will have to create a society which is resilience. How do you create it? What is your roadmap for it? Which is very desire for security. Security is very important. Another very important is fear of insecurity. You will have to remove. So you have to inculcate faith. Does the resilience requires one very important thing is the faith. Faith in very thing, faith in your economy, faith in your health system, but that will come from the top. It cannot come from the bottom. So from a society, if you read this book, how do you build your resilience for the future pandemics? I will suggest people who are interested should read together, and maybe once you read it, we can get into it. This I have discussed it, the crux of it. Little bit about Indian mindset, because many of the time we work on Indian mindset, and many of the psychology student also doesn't know Indian researchers, and many of the time they read Western books. I will give you a list of Indian researchers who have worked. JBB Sinhas, he has written one book, Exploration of Indian Mindset. He's a social psychologist of eminence. His books are read by worldwide, and is considered as one of the greatest person. He says that Indian mindset is a configuration of collective held beliefs. Now, when you want to work in Indian context, it is collective held beliefs, preference and action orientation that led India to respond to their environment in a particular way. Okay, so you will have to take cultural beliefs, community beliefs, and go inside in if you want to bring and work about a change. Indian society is pluralistic. Now here the cocktail is done by the politician, and they mix up it. We had invited everybody, and Indian culture is welcoming diverse influence from various cultural sources. Even our religion, even our it talks about synthesizing. This is very very essential, and in the synthesis there is a problem also, because many of the time inconsistency and contradiction constitute a core Indian mindset. In the synthesis, Indian mindset is inconsistent, and it is a contradictory also. Now, that is also very, very essential to understand. Indian primarily are collectives among individual, but they have well protected secret self. Many of the time they say that Indians have double standards. So this is also this thing. Uh, on the outer side, they say that we are more collective, but in the internal, they are more individualistic with its thought, feeling, and fantasies. That is why many of the time they are not able to express itself. Now, there are a variety of reasons for it uh, as we go further, and they are both individualistic and collectivist. You see a society like urban India, which is very, very individualistic. But when you see a society which you go to the tribal or to the remote villages, you find they are more collectivist. And this is also seen in grief. Grief is also there. In Mumbai, the grief can be only for few hours. That's all. We have to move on. But the same grief in the villages is for 14 days, 18 days, 20 days, because time factor is not there. In urban area, time has become the more important because time is money. Whereas in rural India, time is not money, or in any of the rural society or a tribal society. For them, time is not, because the belief system is there, and this belief system governs it. There is a change of this belief system which has happened, and maybe the market economy or the corporatized has changed many of the belief systems of the individual, especially in certain sectors. Now, I will give you the example of this person, Jamna Prasad, 1935. Not many psychologists in India doesn't know, but he is one of the greatest psychologists. On basis on his theory, Leon Festinger, who developed the cognitive dissonance theory, give credit to him. He says an Indian, but when you read Indian books, you will not find his name. He studied earthquakes in Bihar. Very interesting on this thing, and he did a comparative analysis of earthquake by bringing in rumor. See, when crisis happened, when all this thing happened, rumor spread, and this rumor we have witnessed in pandemic also. Tablighi Jamaat, they were saying, but at the end, what happened? There are many. I will see how the cocktail happens and rumor spreads, without evidences. And how does this in pandemic? It plays a very important part. And rumor travels so fast, it creates. Actually, with this theory, Leon Festinger has given credit that Indian psychologist helped me. He found out that research used rumors that floated around following a devastating earthquake in Bihar. And his finding is that number of rumors circulating afterwards was much greater among people who were inhabitants of surrounding region that were not hit by the earthquake. So it got spread in places where it was not there. Stories of impending doom and gloom were young around, spreading fear and anxiety. Now this is very interesting study. People who want to study disaster, wants to study, this study can be there. Now, another researcher by the name of Durganand Sinha, he did a lot of studies in community psychology. He focused on aftermath of a different disaster. And he confirmed that rumors were remarkable few among people of the region that was directly affected. People who were affected, there the rumor was less. But people who were not affected, the rumor was adjacent reason, they spread a lot of rumor and fears. The worst were used self-justification, laid foundation, and all this were a big problem, which were